Despite efforts to sustain safety on our roads, not much can be said of the success of the numerous campaigns geared towards this national challenge. Over this past weekend, quite a number of accidents were recorded, including one on the Winneba Road and another involving the Deputy Women's Organizers of the governing National Democratic Congress in the Greater Accra and Volta regions, who also died in a road accident on Saturday. Hajia Adiza Sali and Agnes Tia died when the vehicle they were traveling in collided with a U-turn bus on the Kintampo Kumasi Road. The Greater Accra Regional Women's Organizer Vivian Ankara, who was also traveling in the vehicle, is in critical condition at the 37 Military Hospital in Accra. The NDC executives were returning from the funeral of a sister of the First Lady, Lodina Mahama, when the accident occurred. Haji Adiza Sali was buried later Sunday in accordance with Islamic traditions. The body of Agnes Tia has since been deposited at a morgue here in Accra. Now, the focus of the discussion this morning is not about the accident involving these two women, but we want to look at the spate of accidents after the festive season. Did all the education just go down the drain after the festive season? Over the telephone now is official of the Road Safety Commission, Kwame Kodia, to help us address this issue. Thank you very much, Kwame.
Thanks for having me.
Right. Kwame, so after the festive season, we tend to have so many accidents. How do we then make an analysis of all the times we spent trying to educate people on road safety regulations during the festive period?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning to your viewers as well. I'd say that, first of all, on behalf of the Commission, we wish to express our condolences to the families of persons who had to suffer various injuries and deaths over the last weekend. I think that we have set time on end that there's a certain need for consistency in all that is done in order to help manage these incidents of crashes and their resultant effects. I mean, if you did a number of things right today without an opportunity to sustain them, there's a higher possibility that what happened would turn out as the end, at the end situation. We are confronted with a certain complex road user character or make, which require that on a consistent basis you step up your advocacy, you step up your enforcement, you step up all the good things you need to do in order to keep them within the conditions that are desirable. And unfortunately, when there's a certain lapse at one point or the other, the user is encouraged to indulge in many of the negative practices that could get us to this situation. So it's one of consistency. I mean,
right.
We run an all-year program, but as I have said somewhere, there is no evidence anywhere in the world that education alone has been sufficient enough to manage incidents of road traffic incidents. But it requires a certain concerted effort from other relevant stakeholders, like the police or enforcement agencies, the transport operators, vehicle owners, drivers themselves. So if you do not have one effort having to complement the other, then there's always a certain challenge, unfortunately.
That will mean that we should start whipping people in line consistently.
Yes. The issue about safety is about the system. You have the driver who gets trained by someone and gets certified by another as competent to get into the road environment. You have a vehicle which ought to be maintained before certified as roadworthy in order to stay in very good condition whilst in the mix. You need the road to be in a certain condition as good enough to be able to accommodate the errors of users. You need a pedestrian who, in spite of the education he has, is willing to comply with road use rules and the rest of them. So when there's a failure in any one of these players, then there's likely to be conflict, and these conflicts will naturally result into crashes. So as much as possible at all times, you need to have the driver being in a very good condition. He should be competent enough to drive the vehicle that he decides to drive or drives. The vehicle owner should not renege on his responsibility when the vehicle is not in that good condition. He must ensure that it is in optimum conditions as far as worthiness is concerned, the road and the likes, so that all of us must be seeing.
But Kwame,
yes.
Kwame, the fact that there seemed to be a surge immediately after the festive period, does it not also mean that all the stakeholders, when it comes to road safety, relax after the festive periods?
Well, it is. I think that it will be unfair to say that. For instance, I know that the police, the Road Safety Commission, and the tripartite advocacy group, including DVLA, long before the festive period, consistently across regimes in our regional, the regions with our regional officers have been meeting as many people as possible to reach them with what is standard and good practice. The issue about a festive season is one of increasing the level of exposure, because naturally during those periods, because of the intensity of travels and increase in frequency of traffic, you need to match up your efforts. So it is not as though nothing is done until those festive periods, so that after the festive periods, when there's a certain relaxation, then the implications are what we find. At a consistent basis, we'll do what is humanly possible within the given constraints that we have. But we have said that safety is not any one person's responsibility. As much as we have a duty to the public, we also use the road as road users. We think that in this country, unfortunately, if people do not get visited harshly by the consequences of road traffic crashes,
right,
we appear to behave as though it is very far from us until we experience it. And the experience is always not one that it's worth it.
Kwame, thank you very much for your time. Pleasure talking to you. Kwame Etiahenekodia is an official of the Greater Accra Region chapter of the National Road Safety Commission.